In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey, everyone. How you doing? As you can tell, I have not gotten my camera fixed yet from yesterday, from last night. I need some help, and all my techie people were not available. So I'm hoping to fix that probably not today, but I'm hoping to fix that tomorrow morning. We'll see if I can get some people on the line and figure out what's going on with this. Welcome to Surviving Together. This is a very hot and humid Saturday afternoon here in Michigan. This is a safe space for trauma survivors to come together, connect, and build community on their healing journeys, as well as providing trauma-related education for all, which is what we're going to be doing today. Looks like Mustang Mike dropped in earlier today. I'm not sure if he's still here and listening, but thank you very much for being here. And thank you everybody who stopped by last night for the fundraiser. I had a lot of fun. It was great. We're still working towards the goal. But we are, I think, like $325 closer to it than we were before the fundraiser last night. So every little bit helps, guys, and I really, really, really appreciate it. The GoFundMe is still going to be up. I still have the Cash App and the PayPal. So if you could still continue to share out the need, that I'm still looking for about little under $2,200 to be able to get to Vancouver for the book launch, to be able to be on the speakers panel. It is so much more than just getting to Vancouver, right? It's the ability to be on the speakers panel, which is what is really driving me, for uh, towards this. If it was just a matter of being at the book launch, if I could make it, I could make it. If I couldn't, I couldn't. You know, I wouldn't be as determined as I am. But the ability to be on a speakers panel in front of the Americas Summit and being able to share my story out and share Surviving Together and what we're doing here, it is such a huge opportunity that I'm bound and determined to get there no matter what I've got to do. So it will be happening. We're just going to keep chipping away at it. So again, thank you everybody for being there, and everyone who shared the message out, everyone who's donated thus far. I really, really appreciate it. Another quick announcement. Tomorrow is going to be Jimena, Magic of Healing, her 1-year channel anniversary. So I am planning on showing up over there on her channel tomorrow. I'll probably stream it to here as well. So you can show up over there, show up over here, but just let's show up and celebrate with her and congratulate her on 1 full year of having her channel up. I can't believe it's been only a year. It just feels like it's been longer than that. But I trust her. It's only been a year. So that's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Pacific. and you'll have to figure it out from there if you're farther east or farther west than the time zone. So that's at 5 p.m. So I will probably be putting up a thumbnail about that a little later on today and at least get it up so it'll show that we're going live again tomorrow. I will be on the source very um sorry, I'm just reading. I'm going to be on the source at 4 p.m. Eastern. He's celebrating 30 shows of doing 5 questions with the source. So the first 30 of us who were on as guests have been invited to come back. So I'm going to pop by there for a little while and then I will be going on with Jimena at 5. So it's going to be a busy afternoon. Thankfully, I don't have anything other scheduled other than I think some laundry around here. Maybe some grocery shopping and probably some working or something like that. Hey, Indigo, how you doing? Hi, Polak. Hi, Crystal. It's really glad to see all of you guys here today. And Pollock, this is very true. If speaking up turns you into the problem, you were never safe with them. Silence protects their image, not you. Your voice exposes the harm they tried to bury. Real love doesn't fear truth. And that is very, very true. So, yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, guys, I think that's it for the announcements. I don't like the fact that this camera is a little blurry, but hang on a second. We're gonna do this. Nah, really didn't help. Well, it helped a little bit, maybe. I mean, it's just the it's just the laptop camera, so not much I can do about it right now, but I will, I will, I'll work on that. That's a tomorrow problem. You guys can at least see me semi clearly, I think. So, what do we got today? We are going to be talking about bystander PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. This is, I think, extremely important to talk about. Um, you know, especially post 9/11, post COVID, we're been hearing more and more about um, secondary trauma, uh, vicarious trauma. It's also called witness trauma. These are all names of basically the same type of thing as we're talking about with bystander PTSD. Cosmic, how you do? You getting ready to go fishing on a Ooh, oh, enjoy the ocean. I so wish I could be there with you. Sending my hugs and love out to you. Thanks for dropping by. Really, really appreciate it. Hey, Carmel, how are you doing? I did get your email, Carmel. I haven't had a chance to return it, but I need you to send me your address, please, because I need to have that on file for when we get the books. When I get the books in print, so I can mail you a copy. So send me the best address to send it to you at, please. So, what is bystander PTSD? Well, it is witnessing trauma versus what they call directly acquired trauma. So that violence that happens to you, the car accident that you are involved in versus just witnessing it. And as I was saying, we're we're hearing a lot more about it with caregivers, first responders, um, especially in light of, the natural disasters and the healthcare crises that we've had. And there's technically a difference between vicarious and secondary trauma. The vicarious um, is more like when we talk about our little t trauma, it's that trauma that accumulates over time. So the nurses, or think of like the nurses or the ER doctors who are constantly seeing people in pain, coming in with gunshot wounds or stabs or dying suddenly in the ER. It all of that trauma, the individual event themselves, they may not have PTSD for because of it, but then after a year or so, they may find themselves exhibiting symptoms. The secondary trauma is more of what we talk about with our big T trauma. So it's that one instance that is just so overwhelming, so horrifying, that it leaves you with the trauma imprinted in you, right? So witness PTSD, this can be because you feel a total lack of helplessness. Remember, trauma is all about our nervous system being totally overwhelmed. And whatever the reason is that got you there, with witness with witness trauma that results in PTSD, often it's because you feel physically threatened yourself. The violence may not be directed at you. So if you're witnessing violence against another, um, you could feel, you're nearby. And so that violence could transfer to you. Think of this especially in domestic violence situations where you have children watching um, domestic violence, or this feeling of helplessness that there was absolutely nothing you could do. You watch somebody get run over by a car and it just happened right in front of you. There's nothing you could do. It's not that you froze, you just had no time to react to it, but you're witnessing something that is so horrifying and overwhelming to you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And so these are some of the reasons that people may develop PTSD from witnessing these sorts of acts. And how does this affect a person versus somebody who has what they call directly acquired PTSD? So where they're involved in the incident themselves. Pretty similar, except when we get to the brain level. So the effects are going to manifest pretty much the same. These people are going to have, you know, lingering emotional dysregulation. So they're going to fear, they may feel shame or guilt for not being able to help out, um, because they didn't when they maybe they didn't when they could have. um, Survivor's guilt is definitely a thing. um, Anger, any of those emotions that we all feel with just dealing with other types of trauma can manifest themselves in somebody with bystander PTSD. Flashbacks, nightmares, um, being triggered by sounds or places or smells, avoidance behaviors. So you don't want to go to that intersection where you witnessed that car accident. Um, Anything that reminds you of that person who died suddenly in front of you. If it's, say, somebody you knew. Emotional numbness, extremely common with all kinds of trauma. Hyperarousal, so being that current fight or flight stage where we're constantly on edge and wondering when the other shoe's going to drop. This can happen when people just um, witness trauma. And doesn't this go a long way to explaining why we talk about, especially things like our little t traumas with, you know, chronic childhood um, abuse. And I don't mean abuse to themselves, but abuse in the family. It's one of the reasons that having domestic violence within the household is one of the adverse childhood experiences that gets a point. Because witnessing this stuff for kids, even for other adults, can be very traumatic, especially when it's an ongoing thing and you don't feel safe in your own home. Even think about it if it's, a relative or your best friend, if it's someplace that you visit regularly. And, when you're over there, you're witnessing this sort of physical violence, or even I would say, severe emotional abuse. If you're witnessing somebody, constantly, um, berating and putting down and gaslighting and manipulating, your friend or your aunt or, whoever's close to you, um, it's really hard to interject ourselves in those situations, to do anything about it. We can try talking to our friends, we can present them with information, but ultimately, right, it's their decision as to whether they're going to stay in a circumstance and to whether their eyes can be open to things. And thank you very much, Indigo. It just reminds me to put up our trigger warning here because we are going to be talking about some very sensitive things today, as I already have been. I thought about doing that at the really beginning, and then I got going and I totally forgot to. 100% Carmel. I'm so, so sorry that that happened to you. Girlfriend died in his arms when she was run down by a car. Yeah, 100%. Not only are you witnessing the sudden death of a loved one, but you witnessed a severe accident involving somebody you cared about where you couldn't do anything about that. So you've kind of got a double whammy already going on there. So that 100% bystander PTSD there. Some of the other effects, again, these are all associated with directly acquired PTSD, dissociation feelings, and trouble functioning in your daily life, whether that's focusing, maintaining relationships, caring for others, or caring for yourself. Um, all of this is going to be from the outside pretty indistinguishable from someone who has direct acquired PTSD. What is unique, it turns out, is what happens in the brain. And this is based on a study that was just done by Virginia Tech, which is a university here in the United States. And they just released this earlier this year. It was mainly done, I think, at the end of 2023. And then most of the research was done in 2024. And just for numbers' sake, about 10% of people with PTSD are going to identify as having bystander PTSD. So this really isn't a small number. It's not like we're only talking about 1 or 2% of all the people with PTSD. And I didn't pull the numbers on people with PTSD, but I think that they're not going to be very accurate because there's PTSD and there's CPTSD, which isn't actually recognized in the DSM, which is what the US uses. However, it is used international. It is recognized internationally with the international basically equivalent of the DSM. So the numbers, uh, I can't get a good handle on it. Um, but from everything I read, it was pretty much across the board, saying about 10% at least of the people who identify as having PTSD have bystander PTSD. So what happens in the brain? What did the study show? Well, they were looking at the brain and looking at the different brain centers that they've identified as being involved in memory and fear response and emotional regulation. And in direct acquired PTSD, there is a change in the proteins in the brain. They degrade in a certain way in the amygdala, the ACC, which is the anterior cingulate cortex, and in the hippocampus. So that's for direct acquired PTSD. What they found in people with bystander PTSD is that the amygdala and the ACC were also involved. But the third area that was involved was an area of the brain called the retrosplenial cortex. And I don't know if they were surprised by this or not. Um, I wasn't able to access the actual research paper, so I was just reading various summaries of the information, which tended to just give the same facts. But it shows that there is a disconnect, I shouldn't say disconnect, but a difference in the brain, the portions of the brain that respond when you're witnessing trauma or witnessing an event that becomes traumatic versus directly acquiring it. And Indigo, you are asking about the retrosplenial area and what it does. And honestly, I had not heard about it as well, but let's do this. Let me get back here. Let me share this with you, which I just pulled up. Okay. So let me, no, there we go. Wow. Still not very big. But basically, you've got the hippocampus, which is down at the very bottom, which is down over here. And then the retrosplenial cortex is right here. And it says that the retrosplenial cortex is the region of the brain that involves various cognitive functions such as spatial navigation, memory, and context processing. It also plays a role in spatial orientation, encoding environmental context, and integrating self motion and visual memory. Additionally, it's implicated in episodic memory, so in remembering specific things, remembering, being able to pull up a specific memory. So that is what the retrosplenial cortex does. What they also found, and I was not able to find what the difference was, but they found a definitive difference in the way, and I believe that I have read this before when I was looking at trauma and how it affects people, that there is a definitive difference in the way that affects men and women. And pretty much that tracks with what they found with directly acquired PTSD, that there is a difference as to how men and women process their fear responses and process these events and how it becomes trauma. And that is why what they're believing now is that brain activity is why women are twice as likely to suffer from PTSD from an incident as men. And that tracks with direct direct acquired PTSD. So it's very interesting that they have found that difference between men and women in direct acquired PTSD, but now specifically looking at it in the bystander PTSD population, they found that same difference. So what does this mean in general? Well, they're hoping that they will be able to come up with better targeted therapies. What those exact targeted therapies are, I'm not sure. I'm sure the pharmaceutical industry is going to try and get involved with it somehow. But also, as they're, as we found on like how effective therapies like EMDR, ha- are with the PTSD population, the more they understand about the brain and what areas are affected, a good trauma informed therapist who should understand about the different brain areas as well and what's affected, the better able they're going to be to walk you through what you need to do. And, possibly that's going to affect how EMDR is done, or how they're walking you through the situation, or maybe it's going to inform them better as to, I'm really interested in this area to find out more about why women process things so much different than men. I mean, for us to be twice as likely to suffer PTSD, that's a huge, huge number. That means something very significant is going on different in our brains versus in male brains. So maybe that'll be like one of the next delves that I do into PTSD, is seeing if I can find more information on what is going on inside the brain with this difference between male and female. I don't know, Indigo, it's interesting. Indigo says, I wonder if this is the cortex that can go into overdrive and record every detail of a situation. With increased adrenaline from trauma could affect those images and memories in your mind. Yeah, I would have to. I've been learning about the brain and the different areas of the brain as I've gone along with this, but it is still a wonder to me. Um, Mainly because there so many of these areas of the brain are interrelated. And, especially now that we've found that memory isn't stored just in one area of the brain. And there isn't one specific area that controls your ability to retrieve memories either. So that gets so complicated. And so for me, being just a simple lawyer, not a brain surgeon, not an MD, um, definitely learning more about this than I ever had. That would be a fascinating to see if we could have somebody on who like really understands the brain, like a medical doctor or neurologist or something who really understands the different areas of the brain and what they do and um, is up to date on like the latest research with this. Maybe I'll see if I can find somebody mentioned somebody to me once and I'll have to see if I can remember who that was. And I think somebody referred me to a doctor one time, and we just it never ended up happening. I never ended up connecting. Indigo says, curious if hormones play a role. It's possible. I mean, we know that women just in general are emotional centers. The parts of our brain that are for emotional processing are larger. So to me, that could go a long way to, explaining being twice as likely to develop trauma effects or, to suffer trauma from witnessing something, or experiencing it directly. It's about as good an explanation as any, right? I guess. And there's a question too of if it is something like um, hormones, is there a difference in different ages? Because, with women, we have different and men, you've got different levels of certain hormones in your body at certain developmental stages, from when you're kids to women who are of birthing age to postmenopausal. Um, that would be, if they thought it was something to do with hormones, that would kind of be a way of looking at these people and seeing what their hormone levels were, looking at the children, looking at whenever the trauma occurred. So you'd have to, go to like a kids center and test them and test the different ages. So I don't know. It's fascinating to me though that biology can play such a huge role in something like trauma. If we think about these instances and we've talked about the age that you're at, your developmental age, your cultural factors, and what you witness on a daily basis, what you're used to, all go into whether or not a particular event or accumulation of events are going to cause trauma for you. But then to think about something as basic as your biology going into that as well, I mean, it's an interesting point. But I do remember reading when I was looking at some earlier studies on CPTSD, that they even found that there was a difference in the um, boys and girls. So again, there was still a difference in males versus females who were suffering from CPTSD, and it was higher in girls than it was in boys. So it's definitely, across the board from childhood to adulthood. For whatever reason, women are more likely to develop PTSD or to have trauma effects based on incidences that they either witness or are directly involved in. So it just doesn't matter. Um, there there's a definite difference there between male and female. So, hey Clint, how you doing? That was the biggest discovery. That was what um pushed me to want to bring up this topic today, was that latest study. We've talked a lot about PTSD here, and the as I stated, how the effects manifest themselves, what they look like from the outside, are going to be pretty much indistinguishable from somebody with bystander PTSD and directly acquired PTSD. Similarly, as of right now, the therapies that are available and that would be useful to somebody with bystander PTSD are the same as those with direct acquired PTSD. And that's the challenge that they have now, is knowing that there's this difference. What can they do to tweak them, to tweak therapies to be able to be more effective for one group or the other group? So, the things that we talk about um, normally, first and foremost, is the care and support that somebody gets right after witnessing a particular event is going to be crucial. Um, they found it was really interesting, and they've looked at say kids who, or well, they've looked at kids and adults who witnessed firsthand the 9/11, with either the towers collapsing or the planes, actually going into the towers. And what they found was those people who had family around them or some sort of support system directly around them that were loving, caring, calm, were dealing with the issue in a non-hysterical way, who weren't dealing with their own psychological issues because of it. Um, Say if they also witnessed the event, those people who are supported by somebody of that nature are much more likely to have little trauma, or the trauma that they have, the time period that they have, is much less. They found that, some of these kids who witnessed it, who were in these environments where they felt safe, they had nightmares, they had flashbacks, but they were able to process it much easier because they knew that they weren't back there. They knew that that was a one in a million thing that happened. And they could feel on an everyday basis that they were in a safe, secure environment. So that is going to be absolute number one, with somebody with bystander PTSD is, you know, get into if you don't have a great support system yourself, get into therapy right away. Find a support system, connect with people who have been there. Um, do anything you can to feel safe and secure in your daily environment. Also, all the things that we talk about in terms of emotional regulation apply here. So, all of the soma-based exercises that we've talked about, EMDR, body tapping, tapping our acupressure points, yoga, breathing exercises, art therapy, music therapy, animal therapy, dance therapy, humming, singing, anything that you can do that calms your emotions back down are going to be extremely effective therapies for somebody with bystander PTSD. And cognitive, cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy can be helpful for some people. As we talk about with trauma in general, it works for some, it doesn't work for others. Um, I'm kind of the opinion, and from everything that I've read as well, and my own experiences, and the experiences that I take from all of you who share with me here in the community, is you kind of fall into one or the other. The talk therapy, which is they call it kind of the head down approach, or the body based therapies, which is what they call the bottom up approach. One or the other tends to work better for you. And it's not to say, though, that you can't pull from each. You may find that body based therapy works very well, but there's still aspects maybe that you're struggling with, and that talking through them and kind of figuring some things out in your mind is going to be helpful. It just isn't the most helpful for dealing with th the overall trauma, right? Um, and other people, Crystal, I know you're one, you've talked about it on here before, body-based therapies don't work for you, and the talk therapy is the way to go. But it doesn't mean you can't pull from the body-based therapies, things such as breathing, right? Or, crafts, anything, or, getting out for a walk, which, because it's movement with your body, we still consider it a body-based therapy. But those might be, helpful techniques that will be effective for you as well. And as I say on here all the time, we have to have a lot of tools in our tool belt, because one may work for you today, and that same one in that same type of situation, I'm having anxiety and I do my breathing exercises today and that works great. And tomorrow I'm having anxiety and I am going through my breathing exercises and I get done with them and I'm just not I'm still feeling the same. And maybe it's because I've been sitting in the same chair and I've done them, but it worked yesterday, but today it's not working. So today I need to get up, I need to go, I need to move, I need to do something with my body, whether that's walking or doing some exercise or putting on music and dancing like no one's watching, because no one ever is. So having all of these available is just so crucial. And that is why, if you find yourself stuck in trying to deal with some of the effects of your trauma, see what therapies you've tried, see what works for you, and figure out what you haven't tried. Give it a whirl. You never know what might be effective. It might be something that your brain or you just based on your experience have gone, nah, that's not gonna I know that wouldn't help, but who knows? Maybe it does. They found, animal therapy effective with such a cross section of the population and people who didn't even like animals. These weren't people who had pets or, maybe were even scared of certain animals. Maybe they're scared of dogs or something. And so equine therapy, working with horses, actually is calming for them. And they find that it really helps. Where if you were just to talk to them and say, "Hey, how about animal therapy?" They're like, "Yeah, no, it's not." So definitely, excuse me. I wasn't gonna be able to say another word there. My mouth got so dry. So definitely explore all of these different techniques. And there's so much information out there. A lot of different YouTube videos on a lot of these different techniques, different ways to do them. Um, I have found trauma release exercises to be really helpful. And I know that I covered that when I did my first video on soma-based exercises. Gosh, probably a year ago or so. Um, but they're specific, so you would have to look up. And there's different YouTube videos on them. Different people do them differently. I definitely recommend, though, if you're looking for it, to look at who's doing it. Don't just find any old YouTuber or, a person who's a yoga instructor and says, "Well, I can do this as well." Maybe they can, but there are people with credentials who have these exercises put out there who really know what they're talking about. Um, and I would recommend, following them first. So that's about all I have with bystander PTSD. I think it's fascinating how much we are discovering in terms of different types of trauma affecting different parts of our brain. And also now just confirming what science has already found across CPTSD in kids and um, direct acquired PTSD in adults, that there's a difference between male and female and how it processes. Indigo asks, can you have both PTSD and bystander PTSD? Absolutely. And it just depends on what the event was. Did you witness it or were you directly involved in it? Did you see the car accident or were you in the car? And if you've got two separate events, one, there was a condo complex that collapsed in 2021 in Florida. And that was actually the basis that pushed this research that Virginia Tech did, where they found people standing across the street developed PTSD on just watching this complex. I mean, many people died. And then let's say, you've got childhood sexual abuse. So you can have PTSD from one and bystander PTSD from the other. Now, as we were talking, their effects, how they're manifesting, the symptoms are going to look the same, at least as of now, with the research that they have. It's just how the brain has processed it. As they discover more of this and as they kind of take it to the next, level, it's like, okay, we understand that the brain is processing it in these areas versus these areas. That may impact the therapy that you do for one instance versus another. But I don't think, I mean, that's not gonna negate overall a lot of the things that we talk about with PTSD in terms of effective strategies. Um, I think there's still gonna be a lot of overlap there in terms of what's helpful. Because remember, 2 of the brain regions are the same between bystander PTSD and direct acquired PTSD. The anterior cingulate cortex, or what they call the ACC, and the amygdala, our lizard brain. So those 2 are the same. So there's going to be some overlap still with the therapies, I think, even if they get more targeted. Kamal, you were prescribed a therapy, LSD-based therapy, weird, but it worked. I don't doubt it. As Indigo says, there's, psilocybin, so magic mushrooms, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, MDMA, which is ecstasy. They're finding that those are working for PTSD, depression, anxiety, as well. So that LSD on a micro level might work too. I'm not surprised. I don't think in the US you're ever going to see that, or it's going to be a while before we actually see that as a therapy that would be approved. Um, I know that there's only a very, very few handful of states that have actually authorized microdosing of MDMA. um, More states are starting to come online with the psilocybin. And honestly, I think that the fact that our military here has had such a success using it for the soldiers who are coming back from war, from conflicts with PTSD, and the fact that they authorized it for their people, um, I think is going a ways to the states accepting it. Um, but it's a state by state thing, and it's nothing that overall for the federal government has not been accepted. It's only been in the military. So um, I think we're still probably a good, I'm gonna say 10 years away from seeing like psilocybin being open everywhere to people as a viable therapy, particularly to the point where, say, insurance pays for it. Ketamine, there's another substance that's being used in treatment in microdoses as well, that some people are having success with as well. The numbers I hear, um, not as great of success as compared to the people who I heard have done the psilocybin. Um, but that's, again, it's individual people, just like different soma-based therapies work for different people. I can see why uh, different compounds, you know, in our systems would work for different people. So, all right. Well, that's what I have today. Let's remind you guys then that so tomorrow I will be on The Source, and I'll probably stream that live from here as well. just stopping by, saying hi. And since I was part of his original 30 people who we did 5 questions with the source, and that will be at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern, as far as I know, I was asked to be a part by Jimena, so I'm pretty sure she's planning on going forward with it. I'll let you guys know if there's any changes with that. But then at 5 p.m. Eastern, Jimena Magic of Healing is going to be celebrating her 1 year channel anniversary. So yay! So if you guys want to show up for that and just congratulate her and give her all the support and love in the world, I again, I'm just amazed that it's only been a year. So she's been a wonderful friend of mine and of this channel. So if we can show her some love, that would be great. So hope to see you guys tomorrow at 4, at 5, at some point in there. If not, I'll definitely be back on Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern. Haven't decided on a topic yet. I've got a couple ideas, and it depends on which one I get research done on first. So, but I'm hoping by Monday or Tuesday at the latest, I'll have that thumbnail up so that you guys can be prepared as to what is going to be going on Wednesday evening. Um, Maybe we'll do trauma talk again. I don't know. We did that last Wednesday though, didn't we? Um, it seems so long ago since I've been on so many times. By then it's going to be like, oh, I've already been on 4 times since then. Um, so let me know. So we've done 2 trauma talk, which is where I'm responding to questions on Reddit. I've done it on CPTSD, but I can also pull up PTSD, depression, anxiety. Let me know in the comments after the show. If you're watching here with me now, or if you're watching on replay, do you like that trauma talk? Have you watched it? You want me to continue to responding to those Reddit posts? If so, is there a different subreddit that you think would be interesting to respond to? Is there one that you're involved in that you are interested in that you think would be good to pull some stories from, some questions from? So let me know in the comments. So with that, I think we'll head off. We've been on here just about an hour today. Thank you, Carmel, for putting up Jimena's channel. So Magic of Healing Your Soul is her actual channel name. And you can either head over here or you can be out here. Real quick question. Crystal says, do you reach out to each of the ones that we talk about and let them know about our talk throughs? I have on some of them. I am finding for some reason that my comments don't seem to always stay. And I don't use Reddit a lot. I'm not on Reddit very much. So I don't know why. I don't know if I set this up weird or if I put something there in the comment and it's taken off for some reason. I don't know. So it's I'm still kind of figuring that out. But I thought I'd throw a few more ums in here because Tommy with Tommy Stiggs was railing on about that this morning. And he hates ums, and I know that I am horrible at it. It is something I don't even realize that I'm doing until I watch myself back. So I don't know what to do about it, guys. When I don't realize that I'm saying it when I'm doing it, maybe I'm gonna have to have you guys putting a 9 in the chat or something each time I say it so that I look at it and go, I've been doing it again. I better, it'll tag my brain to be more aware of it. I don't know. Yeah, maybe the next one, do an count and we'll see if we can't, each one get it down. See, I just did it again. It's my natural pause defect. I'm gonna have to go. I may be just making strange noises for a while. It'll sound like I'm grunting because I'm trying not to say it. I'm just going, "Mm." I stopped myself, yay, but it's because we've been talking about it. Oh, good, she has a thumbnail up. I had not seen it because I hadn't been on YouTube since I talked to her this morning. But here is the link then to Jimena's 1-year anniversary. So I hope to see you all there or here. I think if I'm streaming, you can join from either place. Guys, remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So hugs and love from me. I'm going to play the outro. If you could, anyone who's still here, put either a 5x5 or a quick comment in the chat if you can hear the outro music. Fine. On my end, it seems to be going in and out, and I don't know if that's my microphone, my speakers, or if I need to take it off and reload it onto StreamYard. The update, I think, just messed something up on my computer. So let me guys know. I know there's a few of you left, so if you can let me know if you can hear the outro, okay. All right. Bye, guys. Surviving together, never alone.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together.